GUE is only about making money and selling Halcyon equipment. Welcome back on my channel. Sorry for the clickbaity intro, but it's basically the core of a comment I got. GUE instructors are just there to ask ridiculous amounts of money from students while making them buy Halcyon PCs and Perdix computers. But let's start at the beginning. A couple of weeks ago I put out a video about GUE's recreational classes as part of my series about the GUE course curriculum. I got a very long comment from African Twin, and it was so long I promised to answer in another video. So thank you very much, African Twin, for your comment that gave me basically the idea for this video. I linked the video with the original comment in the description below, so you can read it if you like. African Twin made some assumptions about GUE that aren't correct from my point of view, and I would like to take these points and answer them. So let's go through the comment. So African Twin commented, let me read it out. I have asked a GUE cave instructor if he could teach me some basic fundamental stuff without breaking the bank and paying a high GUE registration fee, but he wasn't interested. GUE was only big business for him. Cave and 1K computers and stuff. I said that I didn't wanted the GUE cards or registration, just some basic lessons. All I wanted was to be a better safe wreck diver with doubles. Well, so the instructor refused to teach outside the agency he's teaching for. I personally and many GUE instructors I know offer workshops that are not an officially sanctioned GUE class, but I ask the same money I ask for GUE classes. The student only saves the registration fee for the class, which is currently $95. However, if someone who does want to learn to use doubles and be a safer wreck diver approaches me, I'd at any time recommend a fundamentals class over a workshop, because that's the concept of the fundamentals, and I don't really see the need to do that outside the agency. If somebody comes to me and asks if I can do the course just a bit cheaper, I refuse to do so. The reasoning behind that is that doing it always a bit cheaper is the cause for the quality problems the diving industry has. If I'm doing it $10 cheaper and the next one is going to do it another $10 cheaper, so I give $30 discount and we end up playing discount ping pong until one of us starts bringing money to the class. At that point, I can't live from teaching and then start to reduce the quality by, let's say, booking more students in the class. If I simultaneously teach 5 or 6 students, instead of only 2 or 3, it's much harder for me to control the students, especially if they are beginners. Because I want to have control over my students, I start asking them to wear big weight belts and being overweighted, since then they are literally nailed to the ground and can't float away. All exercises need to be done kneeling on the ground, then giving up the whole point of the class. And if I'm violating standards for the sake of money anyway, I can reduce the time for the class anyway and do it in only, let's say, 2 days. You actually pay much less for the class, but at the same time, you get less for your money. The class became worthless. That happens all the time if instructors are in a high competition market. That'd be my reason to refuse teaching at a bit cheaper. That has nothing to do with big business, but with making a living from what you do. Just look at it like this. If you are a full-time instructor, let's say in Germany, as I am, you need to earn about, let's say, 2,500 euro a month. You are not really well paid then, just as a comparison, and this only applies to Germany. That's approximately the amount of money you earn as a bouncer in Germany if you work full-time, not the salary of a medical doctor. Now, if that's the amount you need every month, what would be the revenue you need? For health insurance, tax and so on, you can add up another 2,500 euro. You'll have to pay your own equipment, your car, marketing, software to organize everything, license fees to GUE. You need to do the non-training dives to keep your license active, pay accounting, insurances like DAN and maybe disability insurance if you are not fit to dive anymore one day. And of course, you'll have to save some money if a pandemic strikes and you can't work for a month or even years. Let's count another 300 euros per month to cover all these. So you need to have a net revenue of about 5,800 euro per month. Including VAT, which is 19% in Germany currently, you need to get around 6,900 euros every month to make a living from diving. So that equals 10 fundamental students every month, or given that you can teach 3 students simultaneously, 4 classes every month, literally every week a class, since you need time in between to travel between places. You need to ask a minimum of 690 euro from your student. Now, it's pretty obvious that you aren't fully booked all the time, every week of the year, and of course, you might need a day to relax from time to time, or maybe you're sick for a day or something like that. Given that you do not expect paid leave like most other employers offer. If you take that into account, it becomes obvious why there are almost no full-time fundamentals instructors around. To realistically live from that, you need to be at least Tag 1 or Cave 1 instructor. That might be the explanation why the GUE instructor mentioned in the comment refused to teach 1 student for a low price instead of 3 students for a higher price. It's not because the instructor wants to dive in the money bin like Uncle Scrooge, but he just wants to pay the bills. After that, African Twin commented, GUE instructors must understand that not every wreck diver has not the funds for 1K, 2K courses and 5K to 15K equipment. It seems that the only way you can dive with clubs is by following exclusive courses, and only by the GUE philosophy, and that is everything by Halcyon and first class equipment. Well, first, a fundamentals or Reg 1 class does not cost 2,000 bucks, but rather around 1,000. In the end, a GUE Reg 1 class is not more expensive than any other comparable class. You must not forget that a GUE Reg 1, for instance, is not equivalent to a PADI, SSI or whatever open water diver class, but merely is the open water diver class plus advanced open water diver, dry suit diver and nitrox diver at least. And if you count all that, you end up with the same price, if not a bit cheaper if you take the GUE Reg 1 class. When it comes to equipment, it's almost the same. GUE does not earn any money from equipment sales, in contrast to some other training agencies, by the way. So what you get yourself is just up to you. Sure, you need equipment according to the equipment list outlined in the GUE Standards Appendix A. But it's nothing really special except the wing backplate style BC. And quite frankly, I spent thousands in shitty BCs before I got finally my backplate and wing. I dive now for over 15 years, so I could have saved a lot of money in the long run if I had started with a BC like this in the first place. When it comes to clubs that don't let join you, well, don't blame it on GUE or GUE instructors, but on the clubs. GUE does not run clubs that deny membership to certain individuals, so go out, find another club. Or start your own club, it doesn't really matter. Anyway, there's no GUE philosophy in regards to Halcyon as a manufacturer or extremely expensive equipment in any form. If you follow my channel for some time, you will notice that although I personally own and love Halcyon equipment, I often introduce cheaper alternatives on my channel. I even have a whole series about cheap versus expensive equipment because I think as well that money should not be the limiting factor. And seriously, there is no pressure from GUE in any way to recommend Halcyon equipment. Even more, One of the owners of Halcyon, Jared Jablonski, is GUE's president, and he's in the position to promote his brand through GUE. But I honestly value that he is not doing that and is keeping Halcyon and GUE really separate. Sure, many GUE instructors dive Halcyon equipment. One of the reasons is that Halcyon offers high quality, but many of them have also dive shops and sell Halcyon stuff or are even employed by Halcyon, so they promote the brand, of course. But that's nothing GUE does, and there are many GUE instructors out there like me who are not shop owners or Halcyon employees and dive other equipment as well. So GUE is not about making people buy expensive equipment. Let's go further through the comment. No need for a Shearwater Perdix dive computer to learn some tech stuff. I missed that with GUE. Well, watch my video about GUE and dive computers. Unlike most other agencies, GUE does not require expensive dive computers. For most of the time, GUE recommended cheap bottom timers and a brain over fancy computers, and even today, pragmatic deco is very common in the GUE world. So the impression GUE is about selling 1K plus computers is just wrong. The opposite is true. Start learning with a $100 bottom timer before you get a Shearwater. The GUE philosophy is not being a marketing tool for equipment manufacturers. It's getting the most out of your dives, and that will not change, hopefully. So next part. Sure, things cost money and people must be paid, but there's a line for many. I don't see GUE setting up affordable program for wreck divers. Fundamentals course cost around €800 plus a €100 registration fee. That's not really the way to welcome wreck divers. This also goes for ISE inner space explorers. But that's just my experience. If you don't have a GUE or MasterCard, then you're not welcome to our club and cannot dive with us. Well, nothing to add here really. People have to make a living from what they do in order to keep the quality. And GUE is not about mass, but about quality, so there's no need to sell everything off to poorly teach thousands. There are already a lot of agencies out there that are doing exactly that. Before I come to the last part of the comment, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. So the last part of the comment was this. Now during the corona I see more LDS shops quitting. People stop diving and don't visit the physical stores. Only instructors are behind with hardly no students. Only the tech instructors and a handful of wreck divers I see diving. So from my perspective, the costs are the biggest concern when it comes to getting the divers back. And that's something the GUE and ISE agency are not willing to admit or change. Sure, the pandemic is a hard time for many physical stores. However, it only accelerates what happened since at least a decade anyway. Small shops close and people order online. It's still a hard time for dive instructors, recreational and technical alike, but I don't think it's GUE's responsibility to literally create new divers for low prices in order to support a local dive shop. By the way, GUE does not dictate the course fees. We as instructors are not employed by the organization, and hence every instructor just asks for the course what he asks. There are no fixed prices. The reason for the fact that GUE classes are almost everywhere equally priced may be that this is the minimum realistic price you need to ask as a professional instructor. The biggest problem we have in the diving industry is that it is a very unprofessional one. Dive shops act unprofessionally when they think the customers should have understanding for extremely long delivery times or bad service just because we are all dive buddies. Customers act unprofessionally when they think they must get ridiculous discounts from shops just because we are all dive buddies. Instructors and training agencies act unprofessionally when they think they can lower prices to maximize profits at the expense of quality and thus at the expense of the customer and his safety. What this entire industry needs is more professionalism. It starts with high quality education where divers can expect that they really get from a class what they pay for, that the instructor works utterly in the student's best interest and are truly experts in their field. With divers who understand that someone who is a professional educator or a professional dive shop owner has to earn enough money to sustain. With shop owners that do not only run shops to buy their own equipment at dealer prices and who understand that they are a service provider in a very specialized niche, who have an understanding of their business, provide reliable service and meet delivery deadlines. Tell me what you think about this in the comments and if you are a diver, an instructor or a shop owner. As you can see, I'm happy to read your comments, answer them and have a lively discussion here. If you like what I do, give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and if you don't like it, still subscribe to my channel and watch my other videos. See you there.